you shouldn't sit
Yeah.
on it. You should,
Do you have enough people?
we have enough
We have,
people.
okay.
You should
Sorry.
not,
Brian could even always take the option if he wants to.
you should not sit on it.
You could continue it if you.
It's not a big deal. We have enough people.
Okay.
Then they went and changed the way.
I know it was really slow at first too, the website.
It gets to working and did it successfully the other day.
You guys all ready?
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. This is Seth Engelborg, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We're meeting today at 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 18th, 2026 in a hybrid fashion with some people physically present in the world's best room, Town of Nantucket Meeting Trailer Room A at 131 Pleasant Street, and others on Zoom. The first thing we need to do is establish a quorum of members. So members, when you hear me, please respond in the affirmative. RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Here.
Tim Brain,
Here.
John Schaefer,
Here.
Linda Williams,
Here,
Joe Plendowski.
Joe, you
can
need
hear?
to unmute. You're still muted.
All right, he's here.
Joe,
We can hear
you're muted.
him talk. He's muted, but he's here. And the chair, Seth Engelborg, is here. So I'll read tonight's continuances, which we have the following. Under public hearing, section B, notice of intent, waiver required. Robert F. Greenhill Revocable Trust, 16 Horse Hollow Road, SC 48 3917, continued till July 2nd. Town of Nantucket, Pulpus Harbor and Hither Creek Dredging Plan, SC 48 3973, continued till July 2nd. And then in other business, number 4, enforcement actions, 21R Nantucket Road, continued till July 2nd. With those continuances being read, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So
Move,
moved.
Mr. Chairman. Second.
Thank you, Mike. Linda will take your second by roll call vote. RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Thank you.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Hi.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Joe Plendowski.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries unanimously. Tonight's announcements. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Please do not use your own device to record without our consent. Any devices you use in this room will be subject to being part of the open meeting law record. So if you need to use a cell phone of any kind, including for texting, do it outside the room. We don't have any update on public comment questions from prior meetings. At this point, if there's public comments for items not on the agenda, if so, we'll be holding to the select board's established procedures for public comment, limiting comments to 3 minutes or less and not engaging in deliberation, simply taking comment for potential future action if warranted. If you're on Zoom, raise your hand virtually, and if you're in the room, approach the table. Will, can we bring Burton Balkman over, please? Yep. Good evening, Spruce. Please introduce yourself for the record and make your comment.
My name is Burton Balkine, known as Spruce. I'm president of the Nantucket Coastal Conservancy, and I had a question about the agenda, if I'm allowed to ask it, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I noticed under enforcement orders, you have the GO2 project. Is it going to be possible to have a public discussion, or is that just going to be a discussion amongst you commission members?
I'm willing in my authority as chair to allow public comment at the.
Thank you. That answers my question. I'll stand by.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, we will move on to our public hearing. We'll begin with our notice of intent. We don't have any in section A. We'll go to section B, which is notice of intent waiver required. We'll begin with 240 LLC at 240 Pulpus Road, SC 48 3975. Just one procedural update, since Commissioner Brain did not attend the last meeting and has not done the read-in form. He will not be sitting on this application. But apart from that, we have enough commissioners for a quorum. Brian Madden is the representative. Feel free to take it away.
Thank you so much. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants. We had initially presented this application back on May 7th, and had a subsequent on-site on May 19th. We did meet with the commission on May 21st just to uh, request or ask if there was any questions at that point in time. There was really no new testimony provided, but we just indicated that we were working on revised materials, which we submitted on May 29th. So hopefully we've addressed the commission's feedback to date. Basically, the revisions include reducing the size of the pool. That was originally 12 by 28, now reduced to 10 by 26. The pool has been shifted further away from the resource areas, and has been integrated into a revised deck configuration. Of note, the pool is outside of 50 feet to the down gradient BVW and salt marsh surrounding the existing developed house site. We eliminated, there was a westerly deck connection running along the west side of the house that has been eliminated in lieu of a small little porch landing entry for access. We've expanded the proposed revegetation area along the north side, where we've connected the two northerly restoration areas. And we are proposing to do some selective invasive species management, as we previously discussed, out in the field, and confirmed at the last meeting, kind of a limited targeted approach for anything along the perimeter of the limit of work to be properly removed, flagged by LEC, removed by hand, and disposed of offsite. So the revised project furthers the significant long-term net benefit that we're proposing here to the on-site resource areas. Just to reiterate, we are relocating the existing single-family home further away from the resource areas, moving it further landward. We're removing all structural components in the 25-foot buffer zone, constituting 1,219 square feet. We are reducing the overall structural area between the 0 to 75-foot buffer, and that's to the coastal bank, by 459, and the coastal bank is the most landward resource area. And we expanded as I said previously, the mitigation revegetation areas within lawn or structural areas, now totaling 3,215 square feet. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Commissioners?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Either Jared or Brian. So what is the total square footage now of the developed area on the sites compared to what's proposed here? Like, how much is it increasing?
It's decreasing from the 0 to 75 by 459 square feet. Will, if you can pull up sheet 2 of the revised plans, there's a table of the summary of areas of what's existing versus proposed. Yeah, if you zoom in right in that table. So that gives breakdowns between what's in the 25 foot, again, the net reduction of 1,219, and then between the 25 to 50 and the 50 to 75, and then basically from the total structure area within the 0 to 75 being an overall net reduction on site by 459. And the entire developed footprint is within the 75 foot. And so the increases between like the 25 to 50 and 50 to 75 are largely attributed by moving the house further landward into those zones.
I got
Again,
it.
overall net reduction on site.
Got it. Okay. Should I just go first? So I think I always love seeing a dwelling move back, an infrastructure move back. But this one I've been thinking a lot about since the site visits and specifically thinking about one that came through a couple years ago along Yale Point Road, where there was a house that got moved backward a little away from the bluff. I think it was 87, and that moved backward, and then they put a pool in the footprint there, and that one to me had a little more elevation, and the increase in usage, any sort of impacts from the pool were, I mean, hopefully they follow our pool guidelines, but that was happening at Nantucket Sound. This one at Pulpus Harbor being so close. Pulpus Harbor has the worst water quality of anywhere with the exception of the upper reach of Hither Creek on Nantucket. And it used to have eelgrass. Now it is an impaired water body. And I don't believe that moving this house the distance it's moved and some of the plantings are going to offset the decking and pool within the 50 no builds. We also have land subject to coastal storm flooding pool performance standards, and I'm not convinced that this pool won't interact with stormwaters during a storm event. And I want to believe that our pool regulations help, but if you ask the wastewater folks, they don't get a single truck of pumped pool water coming into the wastewater facility like we're supposed to be having. And I'm convinced that this is also going to go into this impaired resource area. And so for those reasons, I'm opposed to this one. Thank
Okay.
you.
Other commissioners? Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a tough one for sure. I would think that we could put, and then I appreciate what RJ has to say. I would think that we could put in the order of conditions that there would have to be proof for the pool to be whatever got pumped down in the season. I don't love it myself, but I do think that the offsets that they're doing are good overall for the site, but I will wait to hear what the rest of the commission has to say.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Linda.
I agree with Mike. I think there is a net benefit. I'm not sure how we want to phrase this, but the standard pool conditions about when you can remove it, when you can fill it, where it has to go. I think that's why the decision is so long, is that there are order of conditions are so long. It's because we have all these extra pool things with the lights and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not, while it's concerning, I'm not having as big an issue with it because it's going inside the existing foundation, which is already disturbed land, and it's not creeping any closer to anywhere. In fact, the house, the bulk of the ground cover is moving away from the wetlands. So I'm okay with it the way he has it drafted.
Yes, Brian. I'm not sure that's what she said is currently correct anymore, but go ahead.
Thank you. Just for a point of clarification, to RJ, one of your comments. So just for maybe this wasn't too clear, but the pool elevations at elevation 12, that is that deck elevation, and so the flood zone elevation is down at elevation 8. So there is some separation there. And that's, moving it back, creates that elevation difference.
Yeah, it's in the AE zone, elevation A. So ostensibly, there's a 4 foot separation. And we can all have thoughts about what's gonna happen in the major storm situation, but it's not right at the flood zone elevation.
No, but I think the language for that performance standard is that it can't interact, and I'm not convinced that it's not going to not interact, I guess is what I should have said.
Okay, saver. So yeah, I have some points to maybe flesh out this conversation a little bit fuller. So the first is looking at what the waiver for long-term net benefit really says. It doesn't say just any project that has a long-term net benefit is allowed. It says projects that have a long-term net benefit to the resource area are allowed, provided adverse effects are minimized by carefully considered conditions.
Yeah.
So it's on our purview, it's within our role to ensure that the conditions on the order of conditions reflect the protection of the resource area. And I think what Mike is saying about having a condition on this permit and every other permit about proof of delivery to the wastewater treatment plant is a great idea for the future. If people aren't gonna follow it in the first place, they might not follow it now either, but at least if they don't submit it, and maybe there needs to be an annual submittal, and in the annual submittal, it on the permit, it just says failure to submit this report will result in an automatic enforcement order or something really serious. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities to do that. I think.
We do, Mr. Chairman, we can get that stringent.
Oh, yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
That works for
Yeah,
me.
we put specific failure criteria into permits many times before. And we can say that if you don't do this, this project is in failure. So we have that ability. Again, this commission can't constrain the actions of any future commission. So if none of us were here and that happened and they didn't want to issue the enforcement order for whatever reason, can't tell them to do it, but the document can say that is the failure criteria.
Okay.
I do think, though, we need to talk about what waivers do. Waivers, allow projects that can't meet performance standards if there's ostensibly no alternative. And in the site, to provide the project purpose as proposed, there's probably no alternative. However, like putting the pool in the deck, I think is a good start.
Yep.
But I think we need to be serious about, okay, just having it there is not enough. In another project we did before, we required that the auto cover had a permanent pump to make sure that rainwater wasn't getting into the area, or rainwater wasn't mixing with chemicals and then running off into the area. We can require there to be infiltration prior to even getting to the things, because they would do a lot of things. What I don't think we can do is, well, I mean, we can do whatever we want, as long as it's upheld by our standards here, but I think that there is enough evidence, in my opinion, that this project could meet the net benefit requirement as long as we put some stringent conditions on the board. That's where I stand on this.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Unlike the ones that are down on Brant Point, the Brant has one down on Easton Street at Jamie's project. They have one. A pool, very few pools down there because of the washover. And this is so high up from any flooding that would take place. Did I miss that with Brian? Through you, Mr. Chairman? The likelihood of a washover on this pool with the chlorine in it is slim to none unless we're 6 feet under the pool at some point. Is that pretty much your take on this, that it's gonna be harder to flood this and wash out the chlorine than it is down on Brant Point where it's inevitable?
Yeah, I don't think the issue is the floodwaters actually hitting the bottom of the pool. I think, as RJ mentioned, when we created the new regulation, or we enacted the new regulations, the word says that the pool water shall not be allowed to interact with any way. So if there's a big storm and the cover gets broken and water spills out and goes into the wetland, that's a violation. If
Yep.
the pool breaks because of storm damage and water spills out, that's a violation. So it is important to think not about just the design for the flood elevation, but about the conditions to minimize any unanticipated impacts. But I mean, I don't personally think it's our job to say, hey, we can't permit this because a potential catastrophe might happen later. We
Yeah.
need to put in the conditions that we can to prevent any possible action. That's how I feel.
I agree.
Yeah, John,
Yes.
yes, we hear you.
Oh, okay, good. I agree with Seth. I think there's definitely a way we can make this good as we can with the order of conditions. But I also think that we need to evaluate these projects on their own merits, not, you know, because it was like some other project we did 2 years ago. I thought that was our kind of thing. Each one stands alone, not because it's similar to some other project. Isn't that our kind of marching order?
That is our thing, yeah.
Okay.
That we do have to evaluate the project on the basis of the individual site, and what's presented to us. I mean, I understand what RJ is saying about other areas on the island being similar, but we do have to evaluate what we have before us. I'm just gonna suggest some other condition, I mean, we could talk in orders of conditions too, but while it's open to the public and the applicant is here, I'm gonna suggest some other conditions that I think might not solve this problem, but ameliorate or mitigate against potential issues. One is we put in some type of monitoring requirement where if specific storm is forecast, then the pool needs to be drained. We put in permanent pump for getting rid of any rainwater. We put Mike's condition that there's proof of delivery to the wastewater treatment facility, and if the receipts or that whatever the proof isn't delivered, then that would be considered a failure of a project. And I think also, in addition, we could put in all the other standard conditions that we have to. Linda, go ahead.
I think what you just said, I think we did do that for Jamie's thing. Down on Brant Point. Because
did
we
the
were
pump,
talking
yeah,
about,
the rain
didn't we
water
talk
pump.
about named storms and stuff like that at that point? We were talking about the washover of those two down on Brant Point. You had similar language in those decisions. I'm not sure how many people were on here at that point, maybe Joe and myself. But we had that. You said if there was a named storm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Will has already developed that language. We can just suck it off of those. I see Will nodding his head.
Yes. All right, anybody else?
I'll
Mike,
go
go ahead.
again. I guess it's a question like partly for Brian. And I mean, is that practical if there's a storm with a name, all hell breaks loose on the island. To drain, 50,000 gallons or whatever. I don't know what the gallonage is on the pool, but it's probably minimum of 8,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take over here. With respect, I mean, the applicant's representative probably might have their own opinion on that, but it's not really for us to decide. Our job is to put in the conditions that protect the resource areas, and then if the applicant doesn't want to do the project because the conditions are overburdening, then they don't have to. Or if the applicant has an issue with any of the conditions and they come back to us for an amendment or a minor modification. We do what's scientifically and regulatory right, not what's right on the basis of finances. Potential litigation, legislation, logistics. We really have to just put the conditions that protect the areas. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you all so much for the comments and considerations. Based on what I'm hearing, I'm not seeing anything that I would question. I think whatever the commission is comfortable with conditioning, making sure it's done appropriately and avoiding any adverse effects, by all means.
Thank you. Linda, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't take my hand down.
All right, RJ?
Thank you. So just to clarify exactly what Performance Standard 5 says, that all swimming pools are required to be designed to have no ability to interact with floodwaters. I'm not convinced that's the case. I appreciate the enthusiasm on trying to figure out how to make this work regulatorily, but I don't know how this can be conditioned in a way that is enforceable. Like, say we find out that they don't do X, Y, or Z that we condition. What is the enforcement order going to look like? Because if they're not in compliance and they have to remove the pool, that's even more disturbance right on top of an impaired water body that we're allowing them to install it in the first place. So I wanna believe that we can figure out how to hammer this out in a way, but these pools are just tricky. And I'm just not convinced that it has no ability to interact with the floodwaters during a storm event. And I think this is really going to complicate it for staff to figure out whether this is being followed or not. So
Don't worry about that.
I
okay.
know Will wants to talk too, but
Yeah.
I mean, I have additional ideas even on that thought because we've seen them before and Mr. Madden has permitted them before. We're all thinking about, okay, it's gonna be a gunite pool or whatever you typically do. We can say conditions that require pretty much anything to protect the resource areas. We could say that it has to be a precast fiberglass pool that can be removed. We could say it has to be a pool that is above the elevation of the deck. We could say, we can get really creative here. The project purpose is a pool. We can condition it however we want, as long as it still provides a pool. So that's up to us to decide, and then it's up for the applicant to either agree with it, seek revisions through an amendment, or decide it's not worth our time and we won't go down that route, but. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Brian. So you said the elevation of the pool is 12 and the flood level is 8, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I think actually the pool coping is 12.5. Yeah, and the flood zone elevation is 8.
So does that mean there'd have to be 4 feet of flood surge to interact with the level of the pool, roughly?
Yeah, but keep in mind this is AE flooding, so it's still water flooding. It's not velocity zone. So yeah, there's a pretty good separation between that flood zone elevation and the top of the pool.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I am just going to kindly request that when we do discuss this order, that we allow staff, as in me, to draft it for next meeting, if everybody's okay with
yeah,
that.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
Has everyone made their points that they want to make while the hearing is open?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a motion to close? Or
So moved,
Mr.
Mr.
Madden,
Chair.
would you like to close? Brian?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Linda. I'll take your motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, RJ Turcott,
I,
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
All right,
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski.
I don't know if I can vote because I was not at the last meeting. But if
Was
I'm
commi-
allowed to, it's a yes.
Yeah, it was continued to the last meeting, so you should be good.
Yep. You are all
Okay.
set, Joe, I can confirm.
Okay, setting our guy that carries unanimously among the 6 members sitting. Brian, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification, because the order is not going to be.
They're leaving next door and all the switches are over there.
Yeah, sorry, we're just the lights turning off on us, but
No,
There's a meeting on the other side. If they finish first, all the switches are over there, so
okay,
we
go ahead.
love this room.
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Thanks. Just a point of administrative clarification. With the order now being will be voted on at the next meeting. Does that give the opportunity for Tim and Joe to review the minutes or video
No.
vote?
No,
No, Joe is eligible, Tim is not eligible and would be even less eligible because now he's missed 2 meetings, but we have 6 eligible commissioners that
Okay.
won't be able to vote.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
We can't get these
We
lights.
will
on.
discuss, just so you know, we will discuss.
Yeah.
In the order of conditions, some thoughts, we will.
Okay.
So you wanna listen, and if there's any procedural comments, I'll give you the leverage to pipe in there, but we won't vote on it until we have drafted order with all these new conditions we're talking about until next meeting.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you as well. So that has closed. We'll move on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 25 New Lane and 10 Grove Lane, SC 483979, represented by Liz Phelps. Liz, good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you. Liz Phelps representing Nantucket Islands Land Bank on this application for invasive species management at our property at 25 New Lane and 10 Grove Lane. We're proposing to manage invasives using grazing pigs at the site. The property is known as Skating Pond and consists of a mowed meadow and a mowed path going to a bench overlooking the bordering vegetated wetland, which is in the southwest portion of the site. And historically, the BVW was flooded and allowed to be used as an ice skating pond for the community, which no longer happens, but just a historical reference. There's several invasive species that have taken hold in the meadow, including velvet grass, bittersweet, honeysuckle, and porcelain berry. And there's also quite a bit of poison ivy throughout. We're proposing to remove invasive species within the mowed area by fencing pigs in to graze and root out the vegetation, and then restoring the field with conservation seed mix, which is outlined in the application. The pigs would likely be fenced into different sections, as Will pulled up the site plan that shows probably the different sections that they would be fenced into over likely 2 growing seasons. And then silt fence would be installed adjacent or on the edge of the BVW to prevent erosion and sedimentation into the resource area. I believe a waiver is required for seeding, restoration seeding in the 25-foot buffer. And we're requesting a waiver on the basis that removing the invasives and restoring the field would be a long-term net benefit to the site and to the resource area. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Liz. Commissioners? Questions or comments? Yes, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Liz, mine is more of a comment. With pig grazing, kind of struck me as like, it was a little strange. I've heard of goats and stuff before, but I would assume and hope that
It's just cuter.
no pigs would ever get loose, and then we'd have a pig problem on top of the deer problem on the island. I know that's far fetched, but yes, but they
Yeah,
do
they
hit
get-
them with helicopters in other areas where it's gone crazy.
They're gonna be all fenced in and the person
Imagine.
doing the grazing knows what they're doing, but Liz, go ahead.
Like I said, it was a comment. I'm just,
I will note that this is not the first land bank project we've approved to allow pig grazing on Nantucket. There has been several others for the same purpose. I personally think that pigs are incredibly effective at getting rid of all vegetation. So that can be a problem. That's why they're asking to do the restoration seeding, because pigs root basically to the bare ground. There's not much left, and they'll need to do that seeding for sure. Liz, if you have anything to add, go ahead.
No, exactly. We'll have 2 layers of fencing, one to keep the pigs, keep animals outside of the pig area, and then also a strand of electric wire inside that. So, and people will be checking them every day and definitely keeping a good eye on them.
Yes, Tim.
I have a question, really, just curiosity, where do the pigs come from?
They're coming from Eat Fire Farm.
Oh,
they're local guys.
Yeah.
the local pigs, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was like a.
No.
Hyannis pig rental.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Seems like basically an opportunity for a farmer to get free forage for his pigs. So there you go. Providing a resource in exchange for not having to pay for agricultural grain or whatever.
Exactly.
Anyway, we have Burton Balkines who wishes to comment as a member of the public. Bruce, go ahead.
Burton Balkine, just speaking as a citizen. I'm curious, is there any more or less effective is the pigs more or less effective than goats would be my first question through you, Chairman, to the land bank representative.
If you want vegetation removed, pigs are the most effective form of animal you can use. If you're worried about it being completely like muddy, and denuded of all vegetation, using something like a sheep or a goat probably makes more sense, but pigs will be incredibly successful on the site at getting rid of the invasive species there and probably pretty much everything else.
Goats
Okay,
are good for sight lines. Yeah, kind of.
I'm sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Oh, so my second question, is pertaining to a barn owl nest box that we put up there years ago on that property. I couldn't tell on the map if that area that's going to be in the pig enclosure is where that even if that nest box is still there. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if the representative from the land banks can answer that question.
Liz, do you want to answer that if you're able?
Sure, thank you, Spruce. I am not aware of one that's still there, but we could certainly look into that and get back to you about that. Do you know where on the site?
It was you know how the bench was up high on that little knoll?
Yep.
It was below that, below a shrub. We tried to keep it out of sight of the public. We didn't want people curiosity going in there and seeing because the owls can be disturbed very easily. But that was like 6 years ago with Dr. Kennedy from Mariah Mitchell, and I'm not sure. I mean, usually our nest boxes are put in there pretty sturdy, but I would just my ask would be if there is a nest box in there and you could talk to the any ornithologist or biologist and find out the least disturbance that would the pigs would cause, or for the owls. I would appreciate that.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mhm.
I believe so. The fencing will be just within the field. It's not really close to the shrubs, but we will definitely look for that and be aware of that, and we'll get a hold of you if we have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz and Spruce. Anybody else wishing to comment? Okay, Commissioners, is there a motion, or Liz, would you like to close this item?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close from commissioners?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike and Tim for the second, by roll call vote. Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Mike Misrule,
Aye.
Tim Braden,
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Still got Linda?
John Schaefer,
Yeah, I, Mr. Chairman, I had it on mute.
thank you, Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
that thing for guy that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. That's it for our public hearing, as we have no amended orders of conditions. Move into the public meeting. We will begin in section B, orders of conditions for waiver required, which we have to discuss potential ideas for 240 Pulpus LLC. And then we should discuss an issue, the land bank pig listing. So let's talk about 240 Pulpus LLC. Commissioners, this is your time to be creative. Will, can you take that raising thing down? Whoops.
Still sharing too.
This is your time to be creative, so yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with the easy one. Excuse me, that we put a condition in that proof of the pool water being proof of the pool water getting to the water treatment facility annually.
Mhm.
And does that do, let me just think about that for a second. I guess that's on the drawdown, right? Because they just add water to the,
Well,
So I think what you would do is, you would ask for a condition that, because we might be asking for more than annually, that every time pool water is delivered to the wastewater treatment plant, a report indicating the date, the contractor, and the number of gallons submitted to the plant is submitted to the NRD staff and contains some verification from wastewater department. Otherwise, we could just put it on a piece of paper and say, I did this, but we have a department who tracks what's happening, so. The parts of the town can coordinate with each other and get that. So that's what I see for that, but RJ, go ahead, and then Linda, here, I see your slope.
well, is that how often a pool gets? Is it once a year that it gets drained in the fall and then it gets refilled in the
Depends.
It
winter?
depends, but also if we're asking,
Regularly.
yeah,
I mean, I think Seth cleared it up as of
it
when.
doesn't,
But
it's
yeah,
not-
those are the two most common.
it doesn't matter, we could just say upon every instance.
Yeah.
And then we could also say, we can also require that. Because the winter is pretty much the storm season, we can also require that the pool is drained by a specific date in the year. And we can also require that the pool is drained in advance of storms, however you want to decide that, whether that's named storms, whether that's storms of a specific wind speed, I mean, whatever we want to do, but we can do all those things.
And are we, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
are we? I'm just trying to wrap my head around the details. Are we talking full drawdown, like empty the pool for certain storm events? And
so
this isn't exactly our charge, but I am considering the drought scenario that we're in. We overdo it on the pool drawdown, but I don't know what that actually looks like. I don't know if there's some reason they don't empty pools all the way for the winter or whatever. Like, I'm not
They
familiar
don't,
with.
Yeah.
they take them down
They're not-
halfway, they don't empty them.
It's
they're
like
not
18
typically drained
inches.
all the way, sometimes they're drained part of the way, or sometimes they're drained most of the way, depending on what the, height of the pool is, but. I think we could maybe in the next 2 weeks, figure some details out on that.
You know, I don't think you want to draw it down to where it can pop out of the ground.
Right.
So, but I think that, like, we can figure it out.
Our goal is to have it be sufficiently low enough that it's not splashing or getting this out of the area. Linda, go ahead.
I think, didn't Will ask to draft it for the next meeting?
Yeah, but we're just
Oh, yeah.
talking about what is required for him to draft it. We're giving him ideas right now.
And, well, just a comment on that, and Brian, and I know Brian's listening, but we're closed on that portion, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out what the gallonage is on that pool, just based on the size.
Yeah. Okay. Let's continue then. So yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's gonna be difficult to have it get drained down before storms come in. Everybody, like you said, is kind of scrambling around, so would it be possible to just say this is when hurricane season starts and then it's followed by where we get all the gales and draw the pool down before then, and then you can fill it back up at X date in the spring, and that's the season, you can have the pool, and then it's gonna be low enough during storm season that it's not gonna be overtopping into the.
Sure, yeah, I mean, we can just say that the pool must be seasonally drained between this date and this date. That's certainly within our purview.
Makes sense.
Um,
And it's not like in my head too, I was thinking about water wastage and I'm like, it's not like they're gonna be refilling the pool after they draw it down in November or whatever. So I backtrack a little bit on that, but
yes, Joe.
Does anybody have any idea how many pools there are on the island?
Millions.
millions, not a million.
Everybody's gotta have a pool.
We could probably find out, actually, that would probably be one of the easier things to find out in a second, but, it's definitely in the high hundreds or low thousands, I could tell you that. Not millions.
What happens,
Feels like a million.
what happens, this is to Will, when you're not getting those receipts, but that pool is clearly being used?
So here's where, well, I'll let you go in a second, but here's where I think that we can be a little bit more stringent than we've been on other applications before, and maybe this will be a paradigm shift that we do this more often, but there have been projects that have had specific failure criteria put on them in the past. So we could have a whole section of the conditions that say this project will be considered a failure if any of these things happen. And one of them could be that that if the annual water disposal is not submitted, the project will be considered a failure. And then what that means is that the commission at the time will issue an enforcement order on this project to either remedy this situation or to violate the order of conditions. So, it's serious. If people don't do this right, they potentially risk this commission violating their order that allows the pool on their site. Because it's a lot heavier of an enforcement capacity than we've done in the past.
How? Okay.
Or
We,
tickets.
we
Tickets,
can't,
yeah, anything.
we can't exactly see this pool from a public way. How are we even gonna know what's going on with the pool?
Yeah,
You have to
so we
report it.
apply- So go ahead.
That's one of the things I'm trying to think about, but what I was sort of thinking in my head is if we go the route that you suggested, that there's sort of a standard stretch of dates that pools have to be drawn down by. This could end up being an absolute nightmare for me, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Life is pain, but what we would do, I mean, we'd expect a certain number of these things to come in by this due date. And I also hate that I'm saying this program, but if you use like, you could use like a database thing like Microsoft Access or whatever. And you could just have it ping that certain ones didn't turn them in. There's a way to figure it out.
Mhm.
But if we picked a date like that, we'd know that we're supposed to get these receipts with proof. And that, and like, this would change things a lot because it would give us a receipt that we're supposed to get at a certain date at the same time every year, whereas right now it's sort of just an honor system. It's 100% an honor system or a neighbors ratting people out system. That's kind of it.
Yeah, again, we're always on any site, impaired by, we can only see what's going on or what the applicant or the permit holder is telling us. But we can put in requirements that, for instance, say prior, I mean, it says this already when you're supposed to do a project, but we could call it out specifically prior to the pool being built in the spring or whatever date we pick. Notification comes to the Natural Resources Department office that says the date and the pool company doing the service. And then after it has been done, photo evidence is submitted to the NRD showing that it was done. And same in the fall. Photo evidence of it being drained is done in the fall prior to the drop date. And we asked for the receipt of the water going to the wastewater treatment plant. So we have a picture that has a timestamp on it. So we know that the pool was drained before the date. And we have the receipt from the wastewater saying that they didn't just drain it into the harbor, they drained it into a truck. Is this a lot to ask permit holders to do? Absolutely, but this is our role. If these conditions allow us to uphold the performance standards of these resource areas, we should put as many in as possible. So I'm comfortable doing this.
What are you looking at me for?
All right, you guys. Okay. All right.
Stop beating it to death.
You're
Yeah, and I mean, I think also we can, as I was getting to before, we can have a list of failure criteria that says. If these required submissions are not submitted on time, let's say 30 days after whatever the action was, the project will be deemed a failure. So if, let's say theoretically, November 1st is the theoretical date for when the pool has to be drained by this order. By essentially December 1st, NRD would have to get the submission of the photo evidence and the wastewater receipts showing that they did it with the timestamp date of November 1st or before. And if we didn't get that, then at our next meeting, we would say this project is a failure.
Okay.
That's, I'm comfortable with this. Other comments from commissioners about what else we can or should do, or things that aren't related to the pool at all. This is your opportunity to say whatever else you want about the site as well. Yes, Joe.
I'm not comfortable about it, and I'll tell you why. About 2 years ago, I had a tour of the wastewater facility, and I asked the guy who runs the place, how many truckloads of water did he get brought in from pools? His answer was he couldn't remember getting any. So you're starting at zero, and if there are 1,000 pools, I mean, this will be a monumental task. It's not easy to get done.
Well, we can't change the conditions on any previous permits, and we can't deal with pools that aren't in our jurisdictional area. So we're starting at, maybe we're going from 0 to 1, but this would be the first project that requires these types of heightened conditions. So it wouldn't be that 1,000 in one day, it would be this one for now, and then as additional pool applications come in, it would be gradual over time. And if the and here's the thing, if the wastewater treatment facility tells them they can't accept the water. Then they have to, you know, not build the pool, or, I mean. I would say we could even put a condition that says that prior to construction, they have to have a signed letter from the wastewater treatment facility saying that they will accept this water. And if they don't get that, then they can't build the pool. We'll go ahead.
This is the other thing, and I don't know if anybody would even be interested in this, but it could be that we have a set of pool conditions that we use for a pool such as this. And then we have our standard pool conditions, but I'm kind of like,
Right, yeah, we're trying to justify a waiver for long-term net benefit, so maybe that these conditions are. Much more stringent than a project that meets the performance standards, and the pool is in the. Outer 75-foot buffer zone that we still are regulating, but maybe not as strict as this, so. But I mean, if we're gonna be serious about doing what the waiver requirement says. It says long-term net benefit, provided that conditions are put into place that minimizes adverse impact, so this is really our job here. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would say that this is a much more sensitive pool than we've talked about in previous meetings.
Yeah.
And we're going ahead to put this order of conditions on it, but we could always revisit that at our regular regulatory meeting if we decided we wanted to put that on for all pools in our jurisdiction. So, or for any order of conditions going forward, for that matter.
Yeah, and like John said before, we take each project on its individual circumstances and merits, so if. Some properties don't need this high level of standard, then we don't need to put it. And if they do, we do, but this project, I think, for all the reasons mentioned in the hearing, is in a sensitive area. And there are legitimate regulatory concerns about the floodwaters mixing with pool water, so. It's entirely reasonable to have these heightened conditions. All right, anybody else? Okay, Will, do you have everything you think you need from us?
I do, and the wonderful recording will provide me with what I do not have.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we will. At our July 2nd meeting. Discuss this order of conditions, for potential approval of that one. And we'll move on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 25 New Lane and 10 Grove Lane, SC 483979. Will can get this up on the screen for us.
Oh, that's why it's so sluggish. Can't handle Word and Adobe at the same time. Or even just Word. There we go. All right, 25 New Lane and 10 Grove Lane. This is our land bank pigscaping permit. This order permits the proposed installation of temporary livestock fencing and shelter to facilitate grazing pigs for control of invasive species at 25 New Lane and 10 Grove Lane within buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Waiver is required for this project. Non-NHESP. Conditions 18 and 19. I don't think they're gonna need any fill, but just in case, left it in. 20. Applicant shall present a yearly report, including photographs demonstrating the condition and survivorship of the project area and the existing vegetated areas. Should the commission determine that additional plantings are necessary, they will be authorized based on this discussion. 21. Should the project area show less than 50% regrowth of native species within the first 2 years and 6 months of the permit, the applicant shall file a new notice or amendment for supplementing the area with native plantings and or seedings. 22, all reports are required annually by the anniversary of this order's issuance until missed a word or there. Or until a certificate of compliance is issued or this order expires. That seems weird. It still exists.
Well, you got two ors in this one.
Did I not need this or? Reports are required.
You only need 2 hours when you're in a boat.
Oh.
My gosh.
Yeah.
The- Like
Hey, I got laughs
honorary,
at everybody,
honorary
even that
debt.
members of the audience.
Wow, all right, waivers are requested for 390-18B1 that all projects which are not water dependent shall maintain at least a 25-foot natural undisturbed area adjacent to a bordering vegetated wetland. The commission finds that removal of invasive species from a resource area provides a net benefit to a given resource area. Therefore, the commission grants a waiver under section 390-29C of the Nantucket Wetland Protection Regulations for this project as proposed.
Okay, comments, questions, or additions from commissioners? If not, is there a motion to approve the order of conditions as drafted? So
I thought he was gonna wait till next meeting.
no, that's for
That's fine.
majority pulpits, land bank, we're good to go.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking about
Thank you.
pulpit stuff.
It's been made by Mike and seconded by Tim by roll call vote. Archie Turcotte,
Aye.
Mike Misrule,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Bill Flindowski,
Aye.
Seth Hingberg, aye, that carries unanimously.
That was a Vince joke.
I like them. We have no request for determination of applicability tonight. We have one minor modification that I think we should open because it requires a little bit of clarification. So we have a minor modification from the Mariah Mitchell Association at 33 Washington Street, represented by Paul Santos. Paul, good evening.
Hey, everyone. Thank you. Paul Santos on behalf of the Mariah Mitchell Association for a minor modification request for their property located at 33 Washington Street. This is a request, and you have a letter in your file from Joanna Roach, the executive director of Mariah Mitchell, to extend for a period of 1 year a condition that was placed on a dual application that was filed by the land bank and Mariah Mitchell. At the time, the property across the street was buildings were removed from that property. In this particular case, the ticket booth that had long been standing on the property across the street was relocated to 33 Washington Street. It was not set there permanently, but it is currently there on that property. Mariah Mitchell is currently undergoing plans to develop the property, at which time the intent is to incorporate into the design the ticket booth. However, the provision that it could only stay on this property for a period of 2 years needs to be amended, if you will, to allow the ticket booth to stay for an additional, we anticipate for an additional year, until such time it can be incorporated into a plan that ultimately you will see filed as a notice of intent for the development of this particular piece of property. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. As I said, you have a full letter in the file with this particular request.
Thank you, Paul. So in the order of conditions that was approved, it's a little bit of an interesting scenario. So there was an additional finding that was put on, that's what Paul is talking about, requiring that the ticket booth structure be on the site temporarily for a period of 2 years, or if not, that an amendment to the order be submitted to allow it to be in place for longer. Obviously, an amendment to the order was not submitted. In its place, a minor modification was submitted, which, I mean, is not what the order says, but I personally think is kind of fine. Because there's no real change here that would actually rise to the level of being an amendment. We're just asking for the structure that's already there to stay there for longer. However,
Interpretive too,
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, I mean, I guess it could be, however, I don't know, because we're in the minor modification process, I don't know how we'll do this, but I think we should do some housekeeping to make this make more sense, because as Paul said, the land bank was originally involved in the application before, but they're not really involved any longer. The site where the ticket booth was moved, is why that's the land bank property, that's why the land bank was involved. The ticket booth was moved to a property that's held completely by the Moran National Association. And in the order, it says the land bank has to come in for the amendment, so. I don't know if we could just say that. In doing this minor mod. That if this is gonna happen again, because I could foresee that it might happen again, as much as I understand what Paul is saying, that there is a larger plan in place to see an NOI for redevelopment of the aquarium site. Sometimes these things take longer than expected. I was just wondering if we could do some housekeeping to say that the permit holder or permit holders, if they need additional time for this ticket booth, apply for a future amendment and or minor modification for additional time. Because if we just say right now that we'll accept this one year, and it does take longer than 1 year, and then they come back later, we're just in this kind of weird process. So I don't know exactly how we do that. Maybe it's just me being my feelings about this being a procedurally odd kind of scenario, but if we could do some housekeeping to clean it up, that'd be great. If we were in the amended order of condition process, we could easily do that by having the black text added to the order. And maybe that is why we intended it for it to be an amendment in the first place. We could certainly ask the applicant's representative to submit an amendment. And because that's what the finding says, and then we could clear it up at that time. Or we could try to do it through some other process, but I don't know, Will, what are your thoughts?
Lost me.
I'm so lost.
No, I hear you, but I'm gonna answer the question that RJ had because I think others might have it
Yeah,
as
make
well.
it public.
But
please.
just
Yeah.
to, RJ had asked why this can't be an extension. And it's because it's technically not an extension because it's like we're granting an extension to an additional finding that had its own time frame on it.
Right, the order of conditions is still
Still
valid and active.
But this
There
was
was
a
just an
2-year.
additional finding, the purpose of the additional finding at the time. Was for us not to allow a structure to go into an area where otherwise would definitely not be permitted. There was a assertion from the applicants at the time that this structure was. There was effort to retain it because it is a historic contributing structure. And they want to eventually use it as part of their new aquarium design. So, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's on the ground. I think it's just on cribbing in the location that it's at, or is that correct?
That's correct. It's not even permanently set on the property. Correct.
So it's just basically there in a temporary state. But at the time, the discussion was, well, okay, what if they change their mind? What if they decide never to build a new aquarium? What if the new aquarium can or cannot be permanent? Who knows? It was to make sure that this structure doesn't end up becoming de facto a permitted structure in an area where structure is not allowed. So that 2-year time period was essentially to give the permit holders enough time to figure out something else. Which at the time we thought, based on what was said in the
Yeah.
hearing, that at the time we thought that would mean the full NOI for the complete redesign of the site to a new aquarium would have been submitted by now. We don't have that submitted. And it's not really our job to decide why, or to figure out why it hasn't been submitted, but it has not been submitted. So they're asking for basically more time to submit that. And I think, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, I was the one who said we should put this finding in there in the first place. And then there was a discussion of, well, should it be a condition or should it be a finding? And we decided for it to be a finding because findings are less binding in a sense than conditions. They're still obviously relevant, but conditions are held to a much higher standard. Because my sincere worry at the time, and still remaining at the time right now, is that as much as the permit holder has good intentions and wants to redevelop the site, for whatever reason, it may not happen. And if that doesn't happen, then that structure needs to be removed. So that's where we're at, but.
Could I make a suggestion and tell me if I'm completely off base with this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this order of conditions was issued to addresses 28 and 33 Washington Street. 28 was the property across the street that the land bank now holds. And 33 is where the booth came. So the permit overview was, this order permits the removal of structures from 28 Washington Street to be temporarily relocated, then reused or disposed of within land subject to coastal storm flowage and the buffer zone to a coastal dune. Waivers are not required for this project. And then this ticket booth issue fell into the additional findings. I mean, that work is all complete. If we closed this order and then made an additional, if the additional condition was that the ticket booth structure is to be incorporated into another noticement or dealt with it somehow that way, or does that get too complicated? Because the work in this order is completely done, with the exception of the fact that the ticket booth is just sitting randomly on 33 Washington Street.
Yes, I think that is potentially a way to do that. Obviously, we can't do that right now because that certificate of compliance request hasn't been filed, but.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah.
I think there's a potentially way to do it. Will, do you have a suggestion?
I am thinking, and this would be at your discretion, but I think because it's an additional finding and not a condition, this seems like it would pass muster. But if Paul were to submit a memo along with the minor mod, essentially covering the housekeeping stuff that we would do if this were an amended order, just to memorialize it, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, but kind of just wanted to throw that one out there and see if that's an option that you guys think makes sense. I do think what Paul was saying makes, like, I think an amended order or closing it out. My only concern with closing it out is if we close it out, then the condition's just gone. Can't write a new continuing condition.
Right, and we can only continue conditions, not findings, so.
Right.
Basically, and this is why I think I said that it should be a condition, but people at the time didn't agree, and this is majority commission, but. I said we should have that condition in there because it's more binding and it can be dealt with in better ways later. So now we have this real weird permit. I honestly think the best way to do this is to ask the applicant to submit the amended order that would allow us to put in that finding, black bold text that says what the changes are. And then, that's it. Is it annoying? Is it more of a process? Is there additional fees? Yes, but that's the best regulatory way to do this. And again, when just as a reminder, when applicants submit minor mods, if we don't think that the work contained in there or the justification for the minor mod is accurate, we can require them to submit a amended order. We've done this before. at this commission in my time here, so. I apologize to the applicant and the applicant's representative, but that's what I would personally like to see. That's the cleanest way to solve this problem.
Was that the
Yeah, no.
original,
Yes, RJ, go ahead.
was that the original plan was to submit an amended order?
The original plan that the commission contemplated was to ask them to submit an amendment to the order. That's why it says amendment to the order in capital letters, you know, that's the specific name of the amended order, so. Paul,
Well,
not to put
there's,
on here,
that-
are you?
I don't think we don't have to drag it out, I think, and there's no apologies necessary. I was confused of whether the wording amendment, you know, under the text, because it was initial finding, meant an amended order, but we will file an amended order. It's not a heavy lift to do that. And then if that's the intent of what the board was. I wasn't involved in the original one, and I don't know, I mean, Seth, you were, this was your condition, this was your finding. So let's do the amended order, and then that way it's the cleanest way to do it.
Thank you, Paul. And just so you know, I don't think anybody has any issues with it. I'm sure it's gonna be a quick hearing process. I just think it's the cleanest way to do that, so
Sure.
we appreciate this. So the minor modification, well, we should probably go for a motion either to not issue that or to what do we do? What do we call them? No, not continue,
Drag it.
strike, yeah,
Yeah.
and then we'll have the amended order come at the next time.
And Paul, I'm sorry I didn't push you towards an amended order.
No, there's no apologies necessary from me, but like I said, I was, that's fine. It's all good. At least everyone knows you know, we're trying to deal with it. So I'm confident that I'm not gonna come in and get a denial on an amended order to keep the ticket
I
booth.
don't think anyone's gonna
It's
care
fine.
at all. Thank
So-
you, thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, great. All right, thanks, everyone.
So we need a motion to strike the minor modification. I think that's what we would do. Is that bit of compliance? Is solely a reissue? Or if not, is there a motion to reissue that cert?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mike and Linda, for the second by roll call vote. RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Tim Braid,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
aye.
Joe Pandowski,
Aye.
Seth Inglewood, aye, that carries unanimously. No extension requests. We'll move on to other business, approval of minutes from June 4th, 2026. Commissioners, are there any comments, questions, or additions? If not, is there a motion to approve as drafted?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Linda and Mike for the second by roll call vote. RJ Turcott,
Aye, thank you, Lisa.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Tim Braden,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Joe Pandowski.
I wasn't at that meeting. Can I approve it? I
You can
did,
approve
it.
I did review the minutes.
You can either approve or abstain, it's up to you.
I'll approve.
Okay, I vote aye, that carries unanimously. No monitoring reports tonight, committee reports, Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee.
Nothing new.
Okay, the Community Preservation Commission,
I was unable to attend, but I believe we have a meeting next week, so
On Tuesday, John, 9 o'clock on Zoom.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we need a quorum.
Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission,
It's nothing new to report, but there's a meeting upcoming next week, so.
Harbor Plan. Linda,
We're just waiting. We sent it back up there. We're just waiting for it to come back again.
okay. Enforcement actions, we have one listed agenda item. Before we get to that one, Will, is there any new and emerging issues that come before your desk?
Negative,
That is what we like to hear.
only voluntary compliance.
Only a matter of time.
RJ is gonna recuse from the Baxter Road geotubes discussion. And I see that we have several representatives here from SPPF. If you are here and wish to speak on this matter, please come to the table so that we can hear you better. And whoever's going to start, if you could give me a quick overview of who else plans to talk and what you may have for us today, that would be great.
Yes, good evening. Good to see everybody in person. Meredith Moldenhauer, representing the Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund. I am here today virtually with Dr. Dwight Dunk from Epsilon, who's also online. We are here to present and provide information on the repair plans for the geotube, as well as our proposal to provide updated reports. So what I'll do is I'll first turn it over to Mr. Dunk to walk through the plans, and then I'll conclude by walking through our additional proposal.
Dr. Dunk, good evening. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Did you all have a chance to review the repair narrative that was sent in last Friday?
Yes, we have received that narrative as well as some additional letters from your group.
Great, thank you. I don't think I need to go and reread that entire, it's only 2 pages, but there's no need for me to read it. But if it's okay to share, I'd like to just review the figures that were included with that and just summarize the approach that's being proposed.
Go ahead.
Great. And can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. What we did is, as we have proceeded through the superseding order of conditions with the department, SBPF commissioned a new topographic survey of the project area that was conducted in March of 2026. So, excuse me. So the contours that are shown on this figure are from the 2026 topographic survey of the area, and it's overlaid on the aerial photographs that were taken during the LiDAR survey. And so, with that, it does show the conditions that were present in March of 2026 with the damage that was caused by the vandalism to the second tier of the geotube. So having had the survey completed, having the construction manager visit the site with the geotube manufacturer in discussions with the geotech engineer, we've developed this proposed approach to repair the damaged geotubes. As I think you all are aware, the damaged geotube tier was the second tier of geotube, but with that damage deflation of that tier, tiers above that, the third and fourth tier, also got damaged because as they lost the underlying support, they started to sag, they ripped, they deflated. So it's one of those things that it just becomes a rolling set of damage there from tier 2 to 3 to 4. So in number one. Number two, the geotubes, when they're constructed, they overlap each other, such as in a brick wall. So to remove the one tier, damaged tier on the second tier, you need to remove 2 tiers on tier 3, and then on tier 3 to remove those, you need to remove tiers, maybe 3 or so that's up on tier 4. So it does, it's a bit of a puzzle in that, we might have a damaged section that's X, but the work area is going to need to be Y and need to be wider than that damaged area just to be able to access the damaged tube and to rebuild it. So what we've identified here is the extent of the damage is generally in the southern half of the geotube area. We've identified the approximate limits being from the southern property limit of 87 up to about up to 99 Baxter Road. We've identified it to the northerly end of it. It's going to be we don't have the exact limits, but that's the anticipated area of where the damage is and where the where the repair will need to occur. So that's the extent of the demolition. As we move on to sheet 2, we broke it down into the area just so we can include all of the elements here. Before we remove anything for the demolition, the geotech engineer suggested some type of shoring fronting 93 and potentially 97 if the damage requires removal, fronting 97 to stabilize, make sure that that bluff face remains stable because those buildings are so close to the top of the bluff. As you know, the purpose of the geotubes was to stabilize the toe, prevent bluff erosion, and that has occurred. Once we start demolishing it and taking out that stabilization, the toe potentially could become unstable, and then destabilize the bluff going up. So they propose shoring. The shoring has not been designed, but the idea would be either a sheet pile shoring or I-beams with with timbers in between to provide that shoring. In examination of the previous design, it looks like mostly that would be within the sand that was placed to construct the geotubes and the underlying beach and not cut into the bluff itself. So once that shoring is in, they would start from the southern end and start to remove the sand. The sand would be removed from the top and then deposited to the northern end of the template and stockpiled on top of the template and potentially into the return area. Once the first section of geotubes to be removed is identified, the sand is removed, cut open the top of the geotube, take out that sand, stockpile it to the north, remove the geotextile fabric in moving down from tier 4 to tier 3 to tier 2 in that manner. The geotextile fabric will be put into dumpsters and then hauled off site for proper disposal. And then to rebuild the geotubes, there will need to be a reservoir. That's an area of temporary excavation to provide some water storage. That sand again would be stockpiled on top of the template to the north so that it can be replaced. That water would be used to be mixed into a hopper in which sand will be sand in the water will be put into the hopper to make a sand slurry. The sand slurry is pumped into the geotube. The geotube is a large sandbag. And so what it does is the slurry of water and sand is pumped into the bag. It inflates the bag, and the pressure forces the water out and entrains and traps the sand within the bag. It inflates the geotube bag. So start with tier 2, advance to tier 3 and tier 4. Oh, sorry. Energy saving here in the office. I have not moved for a little while. Sorry about that. Before the second, behind each tier, there is a geotextile fabric behind that. And then once all in that construction will proceed from the south to the north. Once the damaged geotube sections are repaired, and I'm just going to then the template will be reestablished, will be recovered with sand of compatible sand source, of compatible sand size. We are proposing also with this repair, because the intent of the original as-built of the original geotube was to have the returns extend to the bluff face So to extend geotubes, angled returns back to the bluff face so that we don't have the potential for erosion behind them, you know, so that we can have a stable structure going forward. At the northern end, this is the area where stand would be stockpiled. And although these are not damaged, we also propose to extend the tapered return to avoid that damage at the returns. Once that's all done, you know, everything will be covered with the sand template, the face of the geotubes covered. And we've included the cross section of the as-built detail. I notice I've forgotten an important word, not, in my write-up. This detail was done for the as-builts. That was done in the mean low water 92 datum. The current plan was prepared with vertical datum of NAVD 88. So the numbers do not align, but the intent is to construct it to the same cross-sectional area and dimensions as the as-built geotube system was originally constructed. The measurements using just using the measurements of the plan, not AutoCAD measurements, we have approximately 50 to 57 feet from the front of the existing geotube to mean high water to provide a work area for this repair. All of the construction equipment, vehicles will access the beach via the Hoyks Hollow ramp to the north, proceed down to the work area as has been consistent for the construction, repairs, the Coyer terraces construction and repairs for a long time. And then everything will go back to the Hoyks Hollow ramp area. The dumpsters would be placed there, brought down to the work area, filled with the geotextile, brought back to the Hoyks Hollow ramp area and removed. And any refueling of vehicles and equipment will be up at the Hoyks Hollow ramp area. So I think I didn't want to just read the 2 pages, but just provide you a presentation of what the intent here was in terms of repairing these vandalized geotubes. And with that, if the commission has any questions, Meredith and I are here to answer them.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Meredith. You said you wanted to talk again?
Yes, thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much, Chairman. So obviously, one of the things, just kind of to recap, we're here because we asked the commission to hear this case back in March. After the vandalism, we emailed staff multiple times asking to engage and figure out what the process would be to correct and to repair the vandalized tubes. We communicated with you multiple times in February and then presented asking for this voluntary enforcement order, friendly enforcement order, however we're phrasing it. And obviously continue to update the commission as you went through the process to obtain the survey and then to have the survey worked on with our experts and to provide those now to the commission. We obviously are in need of our partner, the town, in order to obtain kind of approvals and authorities and additional factors. I know we have someone present today, but we also know that they are in the process of coordinating and engaging on those issues and don't exactly know where we are yet. So we don't know when this work might commence, but we are obviously here seeking approval, answering any questions that you might have. Because we are unsure when or kind of what path forward this will be, we also wanted to propose inspections and review of the existing condition. We know that obviously during the town meeting, there were questions that came up about the materials. And so in our submission, we also had the idea of providing twice a month an inspection and a report to be provided to this commission and filed with this commission, evaluating and looking at any possible loose geotextile fabric that may have come loose given the existing condition. This would, in order, and allow for us to inspect, review, and hopefully then prevent any loose materials from having an adverse impact on marine life or navigation. I just today got an example, and so I brought a printed copy. I can give it to Will and provide it of what a report like this would look like. We can obviously hear comments and critiques on this report if there is more information that you would like to see from these. But I think that, in general, they would include dates of observations, somebody walking the beach, which would be allowed, taking pictures, and then potentially reporting on if there's any additional dislodged material that would need to be, so I can provide this to Will. I'm sure if I could reach across the table.
Serious. And we'll get that into the record for the next
Yes.
hearing.
And so with that, obviously, we're here to answer questions of the commission.
Okay. Thank you. You can, if you're here in the room and you want to look at it, that's fine, and then we'll get it in the digital packet for people that are online. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Dunk. Will the temporary shoring be removed or will it be left there?
Well, that is a good question. The buildings, as you know, are very close to the top of the bank. The work there, the intent of the shoring is to make sure that section of the bluff is stable so that the work, when those geotubes are removed, that's providing tow protection, that the bank remains stable. When the shoring is installed, there's some vibration. When it's removed, there's some vibration. When there's some vibration, there's potential for destabilization. So there are benefits for removing it on the environmental side, that it's a it is a CES if it remains. There's some benefits for leaving it in place for long-term stabilization of those structures. So we don't have an answer as to whether or not it will be proposed to be removed. If it's a condition to be removed, the applicants would, remove it.
A follow-up question, will there be monitoring of those houses while the shoring is installed with the zero moment hammer and however they do it?
Yeah, again, what we've identified here is the approach for removal, approach for the demolition and the repairs. The details still need to be hammered out with the geotech engineer, but I think just as Meredith identified in terms of monitoring right now for a construction like this, I think it would make sense to, monitor the the distance from the top of bluff to the structures, while this work is ongoing, to make sure that the bluff, we're not seeing movement of the bluff. I think we would see, I think you'd see movement of the bluff further down the bluff before telegraph up to the top. But I think it would be prudent to have monitoring during construction, certainly during installation and removal if that's so required.
Thank you.
So just another question about the shoring. Just so I understand, it goes between where the collapsed geotubes are now and the bluff?
Yes, it's in the back. It's in the landward segment of the template, the sand template that has a plateau. So that would be just landward of tier 4 because the tiers step back. So it'd be just landward of that 4th tier and down into the underlying material. Most of that is placed sand and it's onto the beach without going into the bluff itself.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I have two questions. One, what period of time do we think this work would take to do? And then how deep is that shoring? Like how long are the shoring planks that are going in?
How deep are they?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't know because I haven't done the calcs, but they would need to be a few feet into the ground to maintain that shoring because there'd still be sand behind the geotube 1 and there'd be sand in there. Again, those calcs would need to be done in terms of how deep it needs to go to provide, to provide that structure, that stability.
And then how long do we think the work might take place, and I guess what time period are we aiming for?
Yeah, Meredith, I don't recall Jamie giving us a time period. Mike, it's one of those things, we hear the term design build, and in a project like this, it's almost like build design, because as it's taken apart and demolished, we find out just what the extent of the actual damage is that needs to be repaired. I'm thinking it would be a few weeks, to do this work. We can ask Jamie to get a better answer for you on that.
Because I assume it has to fit in a weather window that's feasible to work down there.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I believe that the full length of, was done in the full 947 feet of the original was done in just a little over 30 days. Because it was done under an emergency certification, and there needed to be a slight extension. So that's why and granted, that was just construction without demolition and then construction. So that's why I'm thinking it would be, 2 to 3 weeks.
Sounds reasonable.
Joe or Linda, do you have comments or questions?
No, I appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, I do have a question, and that is, what are you waiting for in terms of approval? What's the priority? Are there 1, 2, and 3 items you're waiting for, and what are they?
I think I'll let Meredith.
I might have some input on this too, but Meredith can say what you think.
So there are obviously, our partner, the town, is a landowner. We obviously are waiting to hear back from them following the vote that occurred in May. We also need to engage with town council to review and confirm those different requirements. And obviously, we need to understand where that path is leading. If that path is leading towards continued effort for the project and another vote at town meeting in the coming months or year, that's one path. Obviously, with the repairs, if it's not, then obviously the repairs will be tabled and the removal will then be engaged. And so obviously we are in a current holding pattern, but again, trying to tee things up. It is obviously our endeavor, as we said, even starting back in February, to try and get the repair permit approved and to move forward. So we are waiting here, and I see my avid partner coming to the table. So I'll make room for you, and you can speak.
Mr. Murphy, go ahead.
Thank you. So we had a conversation internally to try and figure out a path forward on this. It was determined that we'll have to take this to a select board meeting in the coming weeks. And hopefully that'll be a short few weeks or a month, and not too much longer beyond that. We need to get direction from the select board as to how they wish to proceed with taking this back to town meeting. And we're also reviewing the 2013 license to see how that currently stands, to see if there's any possible paths forward. But again, that would also have to be reviewed by the select board.
Thank you. Okay, so I have several questions and several comments, but my first question is, what percentage of the geotube structure is being proposed to be removed and replaced? They call it a repair, but in my opinion, this is more like a wholesale replacement.
We don't have a percentage.
But it's ostensibly at least 50% of that, not more, just based on what's out outside.
I mean, I don't know what percentage it is. And so we can.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I would just, I don't think we know. We can
yeah, I mean, maybe we don't know, but just, my opinion, and I guess I'm not there, and the geotechnical engineer will confirm this, but if you just look at the plans that are submitted, you look at what's being called the approximate limits of damaged geotube demolition. It's like 75% of the structure. So I just raised this issue because we have to think about what our capacity is here as a commission. You know, I know there's a lot going on with the town and the partners and the select board and town meeting. And I've tried to think about this creatively and with an open mind, despite what other people in the community think. And I don't want to add more bleakness to the situation, but I kind of feel like I have to today because this proposal that's being put forth here is not really a repair proposal. It's almost an entirely new system. You're talking about probably replacing almost all the geotubes. You're talking about adding returns that were originally contemplated but are not currently built. You're talking about adding metal shoring to the system, which in and of itself would be considered a separate coastal engineering structure. It meets the definitions under our regulations. You're talking about having a reservoir on the town-owned beach. And here's the thing, this order of conditions is expired. When we think about what the enforcement orders do, the point of enforcement orders is to remedy or mitigate issues to the wetland resource areas. So when we go through an enforcement order process, we need to think about whether doing this will actually achieve that, or is it too far? Is it too late? Is it too far gone? And do we need to go back to our other alternative, which is seeking removal of the structure? And I don't know, I'm not going to answer that today, but I'm just saying if this was a project that like was being contemplated, it would be a whole NOI. It would be an NOI with probably months and months of testimony, with significant, I mean, I appreciate the updated survey and the letter that's been done, but it would be significantly more than what we have today. And I don't personally feel comfortable approving this type of repair, if you can even call it repair, through a enforcement. And then there's all these other things that are even beyond our purview, like, okay, is the 2013 license still valid? And if not, then in order to do this project, whether it's through the enforcement process or through a new notice of intent, then that would still require a vote of town meeting. Because what the code says is it doesn't say that, doesn't say what the mechanism that creates the coastal engineering structure. It says any use of town-owned coastal land to a non-governmental body for erosion control protection purposes shall be subject to that vote. So this is, I mean, I know the shoring, and part of the structure is on the private properties and part of the structure is on the town property, but the access and the sand reservoir and the equipment and the construction is going to be on the town land. I'm not a lawyer, I won't claim to be. I think we need to seek town council's advice on, if the select board and the SPPF are doing that, that's fine. I think the Conservation Commission also independently needs to seek town council's advice on if we can even do this. Because if we have a expired order and an expired license, then there's no point in enforcement because they can't be built anyway. And then we're just back to the removal in the first place. So I've tried to wrap my brain around any way to get this done. And to me, the path just keeps getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer every day. And that, again, contrary to what people may think about me, that doesn't make me happy. This is a situation where I thought, I mean, I've had strong opinions on this project in the past, but I thought that there was going to be an opportunity for resolution, and where we're at now, it just seems so bleak, so. I don't feel comfortable doing what is being proposed here in enforcement. Just because of the size and scope of it is far beyond what a use of enforcement order should be used for. Dr. Dunk, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will contradict my client a little bit in terms of the percentage. It's about 50% of the second tier of the geotubes has been damaged. So it is about in front of the building and on 97 Baxter. We did identify a greater extent to the full length, to the full northern edge of 97 Baxter property line, just because we know there's going to be time between now when the survey was done and work occurs and whether or not more damage occurs, because of storms and things like that. But it's about 50% of the length of the geotubes has been damaged. So, just to give you that context, like I said, we just wanted to provide some flexibility or some float in our length, because we know time is things can change over time. Number two, we can leave the returns just the way they are, but the intent of the original plan was for the returns to tie into the bluff face, which they did at the time of construction. And in the purpose of the returns is to prevent the flanking in erosion that can occur behind them. So if this is going to be repaired, it makes sense then to extend those returns so that we have a stable structure. So we're not adding those returns just to add the returns, but to restore this or repair this back to the original design intent of returns to the face of the bluff. And the returns to the north, there had been I think it was an amendment to the order of conditions to install extensions to those returns. However, by the time that those were going to be done, there had been erosion off of the bluff that filled in that area where those extensions would occur, such that we would not need to put in shoring, excavate part of that material to install the return. So it didn't make sense to do that. Nature has caused that flanking now, and that has been exposed. So, that portion of the repair project is to return, to repair this to the original design intent to have a stable structure with returns to the bluff face.
Thank you, Dwight, and I understand it from an engineering perspective. That's not my my hiccup here. It's that we're asking the party here subject to this violation is asking to have a structure rebuilt and expanded beyond its final as-built condition. I hear that it was, designed in that intent, and I hear that it was later amended to have the northerly return, but it was never built. And so before or after any of that happens, then again, there was a whole slew of other issues that we don't need to get in today. But the reality is that if this so-called repair project were to be allowed and were to happen, And the new structure that was there would be maybe not substantially different, but it would be enlarged and different than what currently exists. But that's my hold up there. I understand the engineer perspective. Yes, Meredith, go ahead.
So obviously, if the returns are in your mind and other commissioners may or may not agree, or an expansion, we can obviously always do that in a two-part process where we get a friendly enforcement order for the repair of the geotubes. And then if there, it was, obviously, we want to do what's good engineering and what's best for the area. And so if that's extending the returns, and that's something that's separate, we could always file that as a separate portion down the road. I think that, you know, your comment about the degree of the repair or what, you know, this is within the commission's authority in my respectful opinion. You know, it is to remedy and to mitigate against a current condition that, you know, as we were saying, we've been trying to inspect this to ensure that it doesn't create adverse impact on the resource area, on marine life. So I think that there is reason and rationale to support this and to approve it. And there are, you know, the entire, you know, 2-1 is, you know, underground and under the sand, and is still in existence, and this would be working from that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say, obviously, it's within our discretion to do this process through the enforcement if we feel fit. I think I've made my comments clear about what the purpose of enforcements are, but I don't disagree with Meredith's point that we could theoretically do this. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dwight, thank you for the presentation. It, I think was well presented and clear. I'm gonna say on the shoring, I mean, that's obviously a necessary thing. I would think in the long term, it would probably be best if we go down this road of a repair to find a way not to keep it in there, just to not complicate things going forward. You know, on the licensing side, that's something that's gonna happen like outside of this commission. That's, you know, up to the town council and the work that you're doing there. But overall, I am in favor of finding a way to repair this structure. I don't like it being in disrepair any more than you know, anybody does, quite frankly. I had sort of just thought at some point there would be some sort of emergency order that we would at least consider, but again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, I'm not any of that, so if I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
So this will end up in front of the select board in the next short amount of time. There's nothing that says that you and the select board can't work in parallel tracks, whereby you work to have whatever form of enforcement order so that you could allow the repairs, and if the licensing gets resolved at a select board level in the near term, then after that meeting, you could then issue your findings in order to allow that. That could then allow for this to get repaired before the winter storm season. That would suit all parties potentially. So I know it's an exercise, but I think there's merit to at least considering drafting an enforcement order so that if it were to get allowed at the select board level, it could proceed quickly.
Okay, yes, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mike. I think we should try to find a way to repair this. We have to check the legal aspects of it, but I do see it as a repair, not a new structure, and I think we should try and find a way to make that happen.
You know, and I can see your rationale as well, but it's a big structure overall, and the damage, you know, allegedly occurred by vandalism at this point, so it's just the perfect storm of a mess to keep going with, but
Yeah,
those are my comments.
yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone wanted to be in this situation. I'm just gonna give some reference, and again, as we've said several times this meeting before, that we judge each specific project on its individual circumstances and merits, but normally, if we're looking at projects that, let's say there's like a bulkhead or a pier or something that somebody's seeking to repair versus rebuild. We've often in this commission said that if it's more than 50%, replacing the materials, that's a rebuild. So what I'm getting at is, I know maybe the final numbers aren't there, but let's say, let's go down the thought experiment and say that 100% of tier 1 is able to maintain and be reused. Let's say theoretically, and maybe that is even true, but since that's below tier 2 and submerged or buried underground, let's say it's more likely than not. Let's say that over 50% of tier 2 needs to be removed, and that all of the tubes above that damaged part of tier 2 are also going to need to be taken out because they're not structurally sound anymore. So we need to get more clarity about what we're talking about here. And then I understand completely from just a non-regulatory standpoint, from a common sense or engineering standpoint, why they're asking to put the shoring in place. Because if there's no shoring and there's no structure, then yes, there is the potential that while work is happening, those houses are at risk with no protection. But if any project, anywhere on the island came to us and said, we want to put metal sheeting of some kind on either right on a bank or right in front of a bank to prevent erosion, I doubt we would permit that. So I'm kind of almost thinking of this as two separate things. The shoring, although it's necessary from a construction perspective, in my opinion, rise to the level of almost being a separate coastal engineering structure being put in to protect the houses on the bank while the other coastal engineering structure is there is being rebuilt. And I have serious concerns about that. I mean, I think definitely I would never want that to be permanent. I think it would be a dereliction of duty if we allowed it to be permanent. I have personal concerns about it being temporary, but that's my own personal concerns. Maybe not everyone agrees. And I've made my points about the returns. I mean, that's less important to me, but having a completely separate new steel structure in this area, I could never. Let's go to Linda and then we'll go to Meredith after that.
Very interesting listening to this and listening to all sides, but I have to side with Mike and Tim. I'm not going to necessarily, from a philosophical point of view, say, okay, this is my opportunity to kill the project. I can't do that. So I'm willing to listen to what everybody has to say. I appreciate what you're saying, Seth, as well. But I gotta just sit here with Mike and Tim for a moment.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I'm just one, I mean, the shoring, I look at it as that's a safety procedure. Like people are gonna be working underneath that, like terrible things could happen. I don't even wanna go down that road, but I think, again, it would be temporary. And whatever going to the engineer, what is the rationale for the least impactful way to do it?
Thank you. Yes.
So just responding back on your comments, I thought that your analogy of the questions of materials and, a quantity of project that's going to be repaired here. And it actually got me thinking that this actually is a lot that's going to be reused. To your analogy, we're not rebuilding a bulkhead that's made of, certain materials. We're actually making a geotextile project, which are actually filled with sand. All of that sand that is currently there will be reused. And so obviously, a large majority of what's there is not going to be, it's not new brick, it's not new. I mean, if you're talking about a house, this isn't new material. We're actually gonna be reusing, taking the sand out, removing the geotube textile material, but then reusing all the sand that's there. So I do think that when you look at that in the, holistic nature of the repair, that it then maybe becomes more in line with the repair question. I also think if you're thinking about existing nonconformities and you're doing it at the same time, it's really a factor of it's not a completely new project because we're working with it continuously at the same time to take the removal and then to rebuild. In regards to the shoring, I actually came back before you guys years ago. We went through the entire removal plan process, which we submitted plans. As part of those removal plans, our engineer said the homes had to be removed in order for that to occur. This was a engineering solution to not require the homes to be removed, but to have a temporary shoring during the work in order to provide safety to the people working on the beach, as well as to protecting those homes in order for the project to be restored in its condition. So,
But it's somewhat ironic that same construction procedure couldn't have been contemplated at that time, but I hear what you're saying about it being a safety thing. I just think, it definitely, if it's gonna happen, it has to be temporary. And I take your point about most of the sand being used. I think that is a reasonable point. Dr. Dunn, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna speak as kind of two different parts of my brain. One is as a coastal wetland scientist, having worked with geotechnical engineers. I agree with the commissioner that this is more like a supportive excavation, that it's a safety thing, and I think it can be temporary because we would have the repaired geotube structure in place. There may be some loose sand that gets moved because there was sediment placed on the bank for the vegetation. So I think it can be temporary, and if it was conditioned to be temporary, I think that would be acceptable. Speaking as a citizen of the Commonwealth, when a criminal act is conducted, and now that damage caused by that criminal act needs to be repaired, this is not what SBPF wanted to be doing. There was no need to repair this before a criminal act was conducted. I believe vandalism is a criminal act, and so then it just, as a citizen, not as a representative for SBPF or as a scientist, I just think that things that are damaged due to a criminal activity are different than damage to a pier or a seawall that's occurred because of neglect and deterioration over time. And the repair of this is I would look at it differently as a citizen, and that's my personal citizen opinion, not as a representative of the applicant.
Thank you, Dwight. I want to hit on this as briefly as possible, but there's no evidence that this was a criminal act. It's purely conjecture at this point. There's been no one charged, there's been no one convicted, there's been no legal understanding this was a criminal act. I have seen SBPF's assertions of why they believe this, and that is all well and good. But until we have definitive proof that this was criminal vandalism, we're not going to, at this commission, agree to call it a criminal act. Yes, go ahead.
I do have a police report that identifies it as vandalism. At the top, it's labeled as under investigation, under vandalism,
Under investigation.
as vandalism.
Are they gonna make a final ruling on anything like that, or how does that work?
I would love to have that information. I have not been able to obtain that information.
Yeah, we're getting outside of purview, but under investigation as homicide doesn't mean homicide occurs, it means homicide likely occurred. In this case, we could say vandalism likely occurred, but until we have proof from either a court or police department, we are not going to definitively on a public record call it a criminal. Linda Williams, go ahead.
What is the result of what we're doing here today? Is it to go forward with an enforcement order, make it removed, approve something? Are we waiting for them to come back with an application for, what do we do? What's the result of today's discussion? Where are we going here?
We can do any of those things if people feel that they have enough information to allow us to proceed. Like, we could certainly go about discussing an enforcement order that would allow us to proceed. If we think we need more information about what the exact construction methodology is, what the percentage of the structure that needs to be repaired is, more specifics about the shoring being temporary, how it's being installed and removed. If we want any additional information, we could ask them to provide that before going forward. Or if we don't think that by doing an enforcement order, we will be able to actually solve the issue that has been created. So the issue for us isn't that the structure is in disrepair. The issue is that because the structure is in disrepair, it's causing adverse impacts to the bank and the beaches and the downdrift areas. So it's our job through some enforcement order to pick a process that fixes that. But we could come to the conclusion that rebuilding this is the process. We could come to the conclusion that let's just ask them to add sand on the damaged structure until there's more clarity about what the town's gonna do. And that will temporarily solve the issues, the adverse impacts to the resource areas. We could come to the conclusion that this whole rebuild process is gonna actually cause more adverse impacts and more long-term consequences to the resource areas. And the enforcement order could be then for removal. Or we could come anywhere in between. But certainly, that's our options here. My opinion is I think we should talk to council about some of the legal issues, and I think we should get some clarity on the construction design before we proceed today. Because I mean, this is gonna be a complex project, and 2 pages of narrative and 4 plan sheets, in my opinion, doesn't cut it. But I'm one person here. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, I think we laid out there's some work that's gonna happen on the town side, and I think we by default came across some questions to be answered, especially on percentages, that sort of thing. I mean, is it reasonable to get some information on that and come back in 2 weeks?
We could provide that information and come back in 2 weeks. Again, I can't
Good.
guarantee that the select board will have been able to make a
Yes,
decision, but
fully,
you know, obviously SPPF will be here and we will provide updates, and I think that's fair. I don't want to speak for anybody.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I
I think within the confines of this project, we should all accept that we can't promise anything at this point.
Yeah.
Everything is up in the air.
I mean, I think it's great that we're here. We got the presentation, we got some questions on the table, we got some questions answered, and there's some other work that has to happen. Legal counsel coming to us, coming to you, and the whole thing, but we're looking at it from the lens of, how to protect a resource area if it goes one way or the other, that's.
Yeah,
what we're
we
looking
do
for.
need to really think about whether the action we take will minimize the current ongoing adverse impacts to the resource areas without causing additional ones. Because if we're gonna fix some but cause more, then that's not our job. So we do need more clarity. Linda, and then I did say I would take public comments, and we'll go into that after.
I know when I've dealt with ZBA and HDC. When there was deliberate vandalism or damage by a storm or a lightning strike that burned down somebody's house in Tom Nevers. Does the fact, let's for this moment say it was a deliberate vandalism and that person needs to be really ashamed of themselves. But should that be ruled that it was vandalism and not an act of God and not negligence or anything else on this project? Does that impact how we have to view this project? Is that something town council can tell us or what? Because that still is bothering me greatly. That this
We can
wasn't
say that.
anything the applicants did. This was something that was done to them. I don't know if it's a mitigating factor from this Concom point of view or not.
It's not a mitigating factor. We can certainly ask town council for their opinion, but in our view, we're sort of like agnostic to how violations occur. Our job can be to impose penalties on violators when it's clear that they were deliberately acting in ways that subvert the regulations. But that's not our primary goal of enforcement. Our primary goal of enforcement is to restore and remediate the areas that have been affected so that adverse impacts to resource areas stop. Let's just go through the thought experiment of this was hit by a lightning strike, or a plane crashed into it, or it was vandalism, or it broke naturally because the UV degradation of the tube. Any of these scenarios, we would still be here asking to do the same thing. And I think even if we had definitive proof that it was vandalism, we would still be asking to do the same thing. Except I would be personally apologizing to them because that is a horrible situation that no one should have to be going through. And even though I didn't do it, I wasn't the person who went out there. The having to be in the situation and to deal with other people's violations, if that's what did occur, that shouldn't be their responsibility. But for us, it doesn't really matter how the violation occurs. It matters that the violation did occur, and our job is to remediate it through whatever means necessary. But when we consider is rebuilding the structure the means necessary or not, we have to consider what the adverse impacts of rebuilding will be.
Well, I've got to say, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that tremendously and I understand that. But I also see if we do a knee-jerk reaction here and go the worst case scenario, that this person, hypothetically, who did this is getting exactly what he wanted. So I'm having a problem philosophically with that. That's just it.
Could have been a woman. Just
I don't think so.
Could have been any person or any object, you know, again, we have all of our opinions on this, but it's not our job to litigate what happened, it's our job to fix it.
Yep.
Yes, Will, go ahead.
I'm gonna put my private citizen hat on for one moment. But also it does not matter how the damage happened. Our job is to figure out what happens next. But I'm just having a hard time ignoring the fact that I'll assume it was vandalism right now. Would it not have been much harder to vandalize the geotubes if they were covered in sand? That's my big hang up.
My
And-
kid has a
Thanks for
shovel.
that.
They get access. If my
I-
kid could get a shovel, you can move sand pretty easily.
I
The
just
kids
think that-
dig big piles and holes into the,
We're
beach.
talking about.
Not that hard to access something. If you have a shovel, if you wanted to get down there and cut it.
We're talking
Do
about a lot of
anything you want to do.
hypotheticals here, but let's say ostensibly somebody did and go out there and take a knife, what was preventing them from taking a jackhammer or
Or
a
a shovel.
or a shovel
moving
or
the
a
sand.
chainsaw or whatever, but here's the reality. In addition to all that, part of what Will's saying is relevant, because
UV
even
degradation.
before this, the structure was out of compliance. It had been out of compliance for years, almost a decade, actually, I think about a decade. So maybe this vandalism did happen and it caused us to be in this very uncomfortable scenario of no one feels good about this philosophically. But the reality is Ms. Moldenhauer talks about how they voluntarily brought this in March. That's partially true, but even in last fall, in November, December, and January, we're asking them to come in under an enforcement section with plans of how they were gonna add more sand to the structure because the structure was out of compliance. So yes, part of it is potentially man-made, but part of it was already out of compliance. So we're kind of in this weird scenario, but yeah, go ahead.
But so, we had come before this commission and told this commission we were putting sand on the geotubes. In January, we came before the commission, said we're gonna put sand on the geotubes. We had told you we're gonna put sand on the geotubes in mid-February. This vandalism uniquely happened at the end of January. Obviously,
Yeah.
ostensibly stopping us from being able to do what we were going to do, which was put sand on the geotubes. We also asked this commission in April to put sand down in order to potentially provide sand to mitigate the resource area in March of this year. In March of this year, we emailed the commission 5 times asking for the ability to put sand on the geotubes from a property at 73 Baxter, which would have been compatible sand. We were told we could not do that. So we have been in every effort to bring the project into compliance. And right now, obviously, we are in this condition. We are here tonight asking for the ability to have the commission authorize this repair order. And that is the scope of why we are here tonight.
Thank you. I'll go to members of the public. If you're on Zoom and you wish to comment, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you if you're physically present in the room, approach the table. Burton Balkand, please make your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing I wanted to say is that I've been coming in front of you guys for years, asking for sand to be put on the project. And I would just want that to be noted that I agree with what Seth was saying, that this project has been out of compliance for a long time, and I'm not going to argue the semantics of vandalism versus damage. Damage is damage, and that's what the commission is here to figure out how to move forward. I have a couple of questions, and I'll direct them at Mr. Chairman, and if you need to ask someone else. My first question is there still a valid removal order on the project?
I will defer that answer until we can get additional information for you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll say, if there is a valid removal order, I think it should be brought up at the next time we talk about this in 2 weeks, because that's another option here that I listened to Mr. Dunk's presentation, and I agree, it was he did cover a lot of ground, but boy, there's a lot of things that are going to have to happen in order to bring this back up to where it was before. And as we've seen in the last 10 years, it hasn't been kept in compliance. I don't know how you're going to condition a project that they haven't been able to keep in compliance. And my other thought was that the reason why the removal order wasn't exercised, even when affirmed by a superior court judge, was because the town was trying to work with the proponents to come to some kind of resolution that would make Baxter Road stable and buy time in order for the alternative access to come into play. And I feel like that since that's off the table, I'm trying to understand why we are even discussing rebuilding something that, if it does have a valid removal order, then and there's no path forward for the expansion at this point. And that was a reason why we didn't enforce the removal order. I'm a little perplexed at that. And finally, I would like to ask the commissioners, in whatever you deliberate on this project, please require sand. If there's no action taken to removal and there's a time lapse between what the town decides and the lawyers decide, please, can you condition it so we can put sand on it? This project has not been contributing sand to the littoral system. It's been causing adverse effects and resource areas for years. There's no other project that I can recall that this commission has stood beside and allowed these kind of violations to happen for so long. Any other project on this island would have been smited by you as a regulatory body, which, and you're very good at. You guys have done a great job with other projects. I'm just a little mystified by how this is all played out. Thank you for listening to me. I've been sitting here a long time listening to everything. And I appreciate the fact that you let me say my piece.
Thank you. I have some brief points, but I'm not gonna go into them too much in depth because we need clarity. So there is a removal order that was affirmed by the Superior Court and in my opinion remains valid. There was a date on that order that needed to continue to be extended and we passed the expiration date, but I don't personally think I don't think that invalidates the order, but that's where we'll get legal counsel's opinion on it. The second thing is, or well, actually, now I forgot what you said. Spruce, what was your second point?
Sand.
Sand.
Yeah, sand.
Okay, and then your third point?
That I think that the project was out of compliance for so long that it's adversely impact the resource areas for a long time. And I just feel like this is a project that would, in any other circumstances, would have been halted a long time ago. I'm not sure if that's what you're thinking, but was my point.
Yeah, so part of what I was gonna say gets to one comment that you made about how there's no path for expansion. I would say that's categorically not incorrect. No path towards expansion is not true. Just because the town meeting vote failed doesn't prevent the town or the applicant or anyone else really from seeking a new vote at town meeting as many years as they want to try. Try this 50 years in a row and you can see if it gets one vote, that's all they need. There's a lot of hiccups halting this project right now. The license can't be granted. The DEP is looking at the appeals process for the state order. The local order is under appeal by the Superior Court. So it certainly can't be built today. But at some point in the future, if all those things went in favor of SPPF and the town, it could be built. Just because one vote failed doesn't mean that it's the end of the project. I do think there are a lot of roadblocks personally for this project because they need all those things to go in their favor. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep all of their options open and go through all the processes all at the same time to figure out what can happen, which I think is entirely reasonable. I appreciate them being here tonight. I appreciate them going before the select board, engaging with the town, engaging with the lawyers, their job is a lot more complex than my job. My job is just to read some words in the document and say it can or cannot happen because of what the words say. Their job is to figure out these complex processes of partnership, funding, dealing with the compliance issues, litigation, et cetera, et cetera. I don't envy them one bit. And I know I've often taken a hardline approach here, but what they're doing coming before us is certainly the right thing to do. Yes, Vince, go ahead.
No, nothing to say. You covered most of my points. I don't want to be repetitive.
Miss Molden?
Yeah, thank you so much.
And then the-
Molden Howard, we have Molden as well, Emily Molden.
Emily-
I got the longer one.
Can we do Emily
Molden
Molden?
Howard.
Emily Molden and then Meredith Molden.
Molden Howard, exactly. It's
Thank
all
you.
good. Thank you. this has been a very long and complicated process, so I do obviously think we all need to go back and reread and review the record and the tape, but it was my understanding, and I'll just say my understanding that as you referenced, the removal order had been continued and continued. And then when we started the NOI process for the new application, there was a reference in that process that if the application was approved, the removal order would then have become expired or dissolved or superseded or something to that effect. So my understanding would be, given that this commission did vote in support of the expansion project, that the removal order is no longer valid. But again, that's just my recollection of a very long, complicated process that I'm sure we'll all go back. I'm sure Burton will as well go back, and we'll all look at what has occurred. But just kind of for the record, as we're all trying to piece this together, I want to make sure that my recollection was voiced at this hearing tonight.
Yes, thank you. And again, I'm not an attorney and we'll have to ask town council for that, but my understanding of how the process works is because the permit was appealed, it's not considered approved by this commission. It doesn't become approved until it clears all legal and regulatory hurdles. So that, in my opinion, as a scientist, not as a attorney, would mean that condition you're referencing has not been activated, but that's a question for town council. Keep going.
And then the second was responding to Mr. Spruce's question about the sand. And again, I just want to make sure that the record is clear. Like on March 6th, so more recently, we did ask to put sand down on the project. We emailed and conferred again with staff on March 10th. And then finally on March 13th, we were told that we could not. So we will continue to follow up. But it is not without our desire to do that and to coordinate as based on limitations of our.
Thank you. Emily Mole.
Is she raising her hand now?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Emily Molden here, representing the Nantucket Land and Water Council. I think my first question and comment really was relative to process. And so I appreciate the discussion that has taken place there. And we also are concerned that the work that's being requested and the intensity of that work, especially considering the status of the existing permits, is not necessarily appropriate for consideration through an enforcement order. So I appreciate the discussion that has been taking place. I think that the commission really needs to consider that if it was going to approve these repairs, it needs to make sure that it could find and determine that all of the work is in compliance with the town's bylaws and regulations, as well as any state requirements. I think that the additional shoring up is certainly, even if it is temporary, more intensive than what was originally allowed, and the returns that extend the length of the structure beyond what was originally allowed certainly raise some flags. And I also think that logistically, it would be very challenging for the commission to have proper oversight for this type of project, which sounds like it would require some significant changes and updates to the plans and the designs as it proceeds. So I'm just not sure that an enforcement order is really an appropriate means to allow this type of work. It also sounds as though SPPF has represented that there is no intention to do this immediately. So I do think that it makes sense to hold off on taking any action and possibly until after there's been further discussion with the select board. My second comment is really a request, and it's something that has been raised already. I would also implore the commission tonight to require that mitigation sand be placed on this structure. I was before you, I think, 2 meetings ago, maybe about a month ago, during public comment with the same request. And I recognize that there is contemplation for this repair work. But again, I don't think we have a good idea of when that may take place, even if it is permitted and allowed. I know that there has been some comments from SBPF about their concern for the surrounding area. Certainly, the commission has been talking about the damage that is being done by this structure. And the good news is that there's a solution to that, which is to require now that mitigation sand be provided to the structure. I think that the commission has the ability and the authority to require that. And if the commission feels otherwise, I would love to understand that and maybe have that explained as to why that's not an option, so that I could follow up on that further in the future. So I would just really request the commission to have a discussion tonight about requiring some mitigation sand to be placed on the structure. It's going to sit out there uncovered, and in the meantime, sand would prevent ongoing damage from the surrounding resources as well as potentially additional damage to the structure itself. Thank you.
We have complete authority to ask, or not to ask, to have an enforcement requiring sand to be delivered. And just not to get too back in the process, but the emails in March that Meredith is referencing, when she says the sand was not allowed to be delivered. Not allowed to be done through an email to the commission staff, but if we went through the process at a hearing to have an enforcement order, we could have done it. There was reasons why it didn't happen. I'm personally kind of let down by that, because maybe we could have fixed some of these other problems before we got to them, but we certainly could do it now. Our job, as I said, again, earlier, is to decide what action that we take, if any, will mitigate and remediate against the adverse impacts to the resource areas as quickly as possible without causing additional direct impacts. So maybe it is just putting sand, maybe it is doing this whole rebuild, maybe it's doing something else. But that is our job as a commission to decide. Deanne Atherton, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just have two questions, please, for information. One is, it's our understanding that there are two structures above the current geotubes, 93 and 97, as well as a shed at 100. Through you, maybe to Mr. Murphy, can we please be told how close is 93 to the edge of the bluff, and how close is 97 to the edge of the bluff?
Yes, that's in the files that were submitted, but we can.
And she has a copy of them today.
Yeah, and it's not, if I may, through the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
It would be better if Dwight Dunk were to give the references for that, as it was contained within the Epson report. Also, those are private properties, and I do not have the right to go onto those properties to undertake measurements, to be clear.
Okay, thank you. Dwight, do you wish to help clarify here the question?
Yes, if you just let me open up. I'm just opening up the file. I don't keep those numbers memorized, unfortunately, so.
Just. Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
Through the chair, while you put up, that information was part of a filing to the Mass DEP, which I believe Ms. Atherton's lawyer has a copy of, so she could also get it through that public file.
Everyone has a copy.
Everybody has a copy.
In the public record for this meeting.
It is in the packet. So we had submitted that memo to the commission as a CC to the commission. And these are from measurements from remote, not on, as Mr. Murphy said, we could go on, but we did not do the measurements in the field, but from the survey, 93 is about 2 feet from the top of the bluff presently. 97, it's about 12 feet, and 99, it's about 14 feet. So they're very close to the top of the bluff.
Well,
Okay.
first, Deanne, do you have something else that you wish to ask about?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, go to you.
Yes, and I'll try and be brief. Just 2 feet from the edge of the bluff sounds like a public safety hazard to me, and we'll pursue that with the town because I don't think that comes under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. I'm not sure. My second question is, if the commission does approve the repair, is part of the proposal that once the repairs are made, the project will be brought into compliance?
That would be what we would contemplate in the enforcement process. Mr. Murphy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Dr. Dunk. I have my main question is, how much movement has there been with those numbers over the lifetime of the geotube project as it sits today? Has there been any change in those, or has it decreased by much? I ask because there's a vegetated bank between the top tier of the geotubes going up the bluff face that largely holds it in place. So I would imagine if it has changed, it has only changed very little, but I think you may have a better sense of how that has changed, if at all, over time.
Yes, Mr. Murphy, I'd have to check our records to get back to you on that.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you as well. So I want to bring up one point that was talked about earlier. It's why hasn't an emergency certification come through to this commission? So if you look at what the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act says about the emergencies, there's a specific requirements for what constitutes emergencies. And it's for two purposes, or really it's the same purpose, but it's to protect the health and safety of citizens of the Commonwealth. So if there was to be an emergency documented, let's say, for those two properties, for the purpose of health and safety for citizens of the Commonwealth, and we then heard this project through an emergency certification, perhaps it's a better way to go about this process than the enforcement order. But I'm not sure, but it is perhaps on the table. But we're not the people who declare emergencies. We certify that they exist, but we are not the people that declare emergencies. The select board can, the Board of Health can, there's a couple state entities that can, and there's, I think, a little bit more on the list, but the building commissioner, and there's probably a few more on the list that I am forgetting. It's certainly a potential path for the work that is being contemplated here to go down. And that's something that the SPPF and the town should discuss, but we're not here to talk about it because we have not certified an emergency and we don't have a application before us, but it is certainly a potential option. Dwight, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is really, I just wanted to first thank all the commission members, for your time on this. But Mr. Chair, I really just wanted to thank you for acknowledging that there's a lot going on behind the scenes for the applicants, the town and SBPF, as you said, engineering, finance, legal, science, fundraising, et cetera, and I appreciate that you acknowledge the complexity that the proponent team has to deal with, and I just wanted to thank you for identifying that and acknowledging that. That's really all I had to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Okay, so it's up to this board to give some clarity about how we should proceed. I heard before that we might want to request additional information and seek some input from town council. Is that how people would like to proceed, or would you like to consider an alternative tonight?
To me, that seems like the most logical path. I hate to move at the speed of government, but, we are where we are and there's a lot.
Why stop now?
So, yeah, there's a lot to consider here, so.
Shouldn't we consider, permitting sand to be put on or ordering sand to be put on?
That would be next.
We can talk about it. Sure.
So can I just say one thing on that, Mr. Chair? Like, so we're here, you know, we heard Meredith's version that they were trying to put some sand down and there was some particulars going back in the office. I don't know what they were. Let me be clear about that. But I personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people would love to see some sand go on there. So if we could find the avenue to do that and allow everybody to do that, I think that would be time well spent.
Okay, I'll ask two questions, one to Meredith and one to Dwight. The question to Meredith is, a sand source still available to apply to the bank or to the beach? And to Dwight is that sand delivery safe and able to be accomplished from an engineering perspective, given the condition of the site with the damage at this point?
So, thank you, Chair. Sorry, the sand that we had communicated was sand that was coming from an excavation site, that was down the street. That was part of the timing and the coordination, in which we were, trying to provide that. That is no longer available. Construction sites, if the sand is excavated and not put in a certain location, it's then, goes into a pile, someplace else. I don't know, it's like a ferry pile.
Yeah.
Which then, so that is no longer available, and obviously, no longer at our access.
And let's say a theoretical additional sand source was to become available. Dr. Dunk, would it be feasible to deliver with the condition of the structure?
I would talk with the construction manager to get a better get his assessment, because he's, you know, been managing this for years. The sand ramp that has traditionally been there is no longer there. So the sand that any sand that's available, we're not 100% of it will be available to be placed on the template, because that ramp is missing and would need to be rebuilt or used to then build a ramp on the south end to then push the sand up. So I believe it is still safe to dump the sand down. It's just that with the conditions that are out there, a fraction of the amount of sand that's available would actually be placed on the template, because those sand ramps that were there are no longer there.
Thank you. And I think, as Mike said, I hate to just do nothing today, but I think we should direct those questions to the construction manager to get some clarity as well. A lot of projects going on Nantucket, and maybe a sand source could materialize, but if it's not feasible to actually deliver it, then we need to figure out other things before we even get to that.
Yeah, I just have one comment. I mean, that was that available sand source or free sand source. I mean, that was a small amount. It's gone, but like, I mean, I think the elephant in the room that everybody's poking around at is a sand source at this point. And whether it has to be purchased or what, but that's what, you know, I think we're trying to get to. I shouldn't say we don't care where the sand comes from, because we do, but I would guess that from the public comments and commissioners, who want to see sand there, it's coming from one place or another, whether it's barged here or shipped here, so that's just my comment. I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, I would say that we actually do really care, because, you know, it doesn't make sense to deliver sand if it doesn't meet the classifications needed for grain size and contamination and all that. But This permit holder or this project representative team has successfully delivered quantities of sand to the site and sourced sand from many places, so they know all about that, so I think we should, well, Linda, what would you like to say?
I understand we're all hot to get the sand back on it. But from a practical point of view, we're dumping sand on something that has to be repaired. Would that not make it more difficult to repair it when you're dumping sand on something that's not intact? Why would we do that when we have to go fix it?
Yeah,
I
so
mean, what am I missing here?
that was gonna be a point that I brought up, but I think if we did have a sand delivery, there's, well, again, the permit is expired, but in the 28-24, the permit didn't require that the sand always be put on the template. It said it could be put on the seaward side or the lateral edges of the structure too. So we don't have to ask them to dump sand on a broken tube. We could say, just put it on the sides or just put it in front. And the whole point is to feed the littoral system. But I don't think
I
anybody.
just want to make sure I wasn't missing something here because it seems pretty stupid to force them to put sand on something that needs to be repaired.
Yeah, I think the reason for asking for sand delivery is to help the littoral system that's currently, not receiving the appropriate amount of sand to it because the mitigation sand is stopped. I would say it has inadvertently received some sand because the tubes, when they punctured and
Exploded, yeah.
whatever you want to call it, sand came out of there, and if it keeps happening and it keeps happening along the structure, we're not talking about a static system. We're basically talking about a house of cards, right? You remove one card and maybe get lucky, or Jenga, that was a favorite game of mine when I was a kid. Remove one peg, maybe get lucky, or maybe the whole thing falls down.
Collapses.
And we're not just talking about some far off future of like, okay, maybe there'll be a winter storm season. We could just have a summer cold snap or a tropical storm or a lot of rain or someone accidentally not knowing is there and running up the structure, and more tubes could just collapse. At any time, right now on the beach, we're in this meeting room, at any time in the beach, the tubes could be collapsing right now. But we have to keep that in mind. Yes, Meredith.
We hope that the tubes are not collapsing at any time. I'll just put that out there. They did get through the winter, horrible snowstorm after they were damaged. But I would just note that obviously if the commission is looking at kind of addressing this, we would wait until after the select board is able to identify as our partner what path they go down, because obviously that is a critical question of kind of what happens next. So I would ask that, if you are gonna ask for different additional information, that maybe we come back and discuss that in 2 weeks.
When is the select board expected to have an initial discussion?
They have to get it on their agenda first, and they have quite a lot going on at the moment. And then July and August, they have fewer meetings. That is for the town manager and the chair of the select board. It's, I believe, the town manager's intent to have that discussion in the coming weeks.
Okay, so continuous discussion for 2 weeks is probably not worthwhile because there won't be any information. I think what we should do is we should pick a date that is farther out in the future that at least gives them a reasonable amount of time. In that time, we can have all these questions from the construction manager answered. We could have these, more information about the building and the shoring answered. We could have all these questions that we've raised today answered. Yes, this is a slow moving process. This has been a slow moving process for the whole life of the project. But let's do it right. Let's get the information we need. Let's allow the parties the amount of time they need to figure it out. Because if they go to the select board meeting and the select board just says, again, everything's theoretical. don't quote me today, but the select board just says, we're not gonna give you a license no matter what, we're gonna not partner on this anymore. We don't even have to get this information. There's one option left. There's removal. It's probably gonna be before we even invoke a removal order, it's probably gonna be voluntary at that point. So let's get the information we need. Let's hope for there being a path forward. But I would say we should wait at least 2 meetings. Our meeting schedule is as follows. We have a meeting on July 2nd. And we have a meeting on July 16th. I would say that we continue this to July 16th to get some information provided, and if that information is not ready at that time, then we'll continue it again, but that at least gives them some amount of time to hope to get some information. And yes, I know we are moving at the speed of government and we are delayed, but as everyone said before, probably one of the most complex projects that anybody in this room has ever had to deal with. No matter what your involvement is, so this complex project. So, is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
This will continue until July 18th.
16th.
16th. July 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dwight.
Do you want us to keep doing the inspection though?
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
sorry, just quickly, I think the inspections are great.
Okay.
I don't think there's any downside having more pictures and more information about the project. If you're willing to do that and the contractor's willing to do that, then we would love to have any information you can provide.
So through you, Chair, sorry. So we'll do that twice a month. We'll submit it. I think we said in the filing, we'd submit it at the beginning of each month for the two, that time period. Is that right, Will? Is that what I said?
Thanks.
I haven't this.
Like I can verify on that
Okay.
real quick,
We'll
but
just-
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that was
Yeah,
affirmed by.
I think if you do it twice a month and you submit it monthly, that's fine. I don't think we're gonna really make an official motion of that. We're just gonna take you at your word.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can submit those.
We'll
directly
see you
over.
then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I
Thank you as
apologize
well.
for adding another.
No, you're good.
Thank
You're good.
Thank you. And we'll all email with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
so
last
much.
meeting, we
Thank
had our shortest meeting ever, and now we're back to the old days, so it is what it is.
This was like a normal meeting run
Yeah.
time though, so it's fun,
It's good.
it's all right.
Okay, at this point. Commissioner Turcott. Can rejoin the table if you have a comment, anyone have commissioner's comment?
I took over like while you were being paid, while you were.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Any other commissioners' comments? Linda, do you have something or is your hand just raised?
No, it just stays up there by itself.
Okay. Any staff reports?
Not
No.
really, super quick, if anybody is interested in the American Burying Beetle release next week, I'm definitely gonna try and come play. I'm assuming you two are probably involved somehow.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
The Conservation Foundation runs it. I've helped out as a volunteer before. I'm not involved really, but it is a good time.
I've always had other stuff going on, and this year I think I can finally go play with the Beetle, but it seems cool. And also both of you quickly next week or at some point in the next few weeks. Individually, I'll meet with you guys about reg update stuff.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved,
So
Mr. Chairman.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. By roll call vote. RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Hi.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Joe Pandelsky,
Hi.
Seth Englework, aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank
you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, and congratulations on being reappointed.
Yep.
Congrats.
Did you all go down and get sworn in?